how can you manage to get small quantities and still have your brand name on the actual product?
For me now, it depends what kind of relationship you've got with your maker, with your supplier. If you have an open and a good relationship with them, you can actually talk to them about doing smaller quantities and saying, I really want to do this. I think it will work, but I just need to have this quantity just to test the market. And more often than not, they understand this, particularly the Chinese now who are becoming sort of quite flexible, so that they're still a contender in the market, because they're obviously coming up against, Bali, Philippines, India. I think that it's worth talking to your supplier to get, because I think, and I always think you should have your branding on it if you can, so that particularly if you get the samples and you go, this is a really good product, you don't want to not have your branding on it because then they've got it in their hands, and every time they look at it and they go, that was a really good widget, I want another one of those widgets. Now, who made that? So if you can, and you've got that relationship, that supplier relationship, do talk to them about doing smaller quantities to test, and include your brand where you can. Even if it's not on the product, you can probably put it on the packaging or in the storage pouch or whatever it is that it comes in, you've got it somewhere. Food for thought.
Awesome. And kind of one of the strategies that I do, and you're absolutely right, Annie, the relationship with your factory, they'll know if you're being genuine or not, in terms of how you come across. They'll definitely know that. But one trick that you can do, and only after you've exhausted other options, and it's something that I still do to now, if you have a supplier that says their minimum order is, say, 1,000 units or 500 units for you to get your brand on there, and let's say they're charging, $3 per unit for 500 units, then what you can do is you can say, obviously you're testing out the market, you want to get your first run in, you want to make sure if it sells. They understand that they know how it works. But then you can say to them, look, how about if you do me 150 units at $4.50 per unit, right? And sometimes I've done that where I've actually just paid them a little bit more, but they've given me a smaller quantity. And that kind of can work really well also, because essentially to them, they're just looking at covering their actual costs, so you could even do 100 units, offer them a little bit more. So that's one way of negotiating that. If they will not negotiate, just give them a little bit more per unit, but tell them to drop that quantity down. And that's a really good way of getting lower MOQs every time. Have you done any markets, fairs, anything like that? Is your product available for wholesale?
No, I haven't done any markets or fairs. I think it's because my product's sort of at a higher price point. So my average price is around $200. Average order value is around $200. So it's probably not conducive to markets. Although now I do have some lower priced items that would work at the markets, and a customer gave me that idea. So your customers are always your first source of inspiration as well. So I probably I wouldn't, for me, it's not, markets aren't a thing. And to be honest, I find markets are a lot of work for very little reward, for a lot of friends who are in that industry. And I think, well, for the money that you could put in a market, you might put towards making some really good content instead, and, pushing that out through your social media, your social channels, which, don't cost you anything. If you've got a bit of an email list started, then you can market to them. And then you can even do a referral campaign to the people that you do have with the content that you've created with it. So there's other ways to spin that investment, I think, but that's just for my product and my opinion, really. Other people might do really well in markets, but that's just my thought.
Definitely. And I think, I guess one thing you touched on also is that your average order value is around about $200. And I think that is, that's great. It's really key. I mean, one of our Shopify stores, our average order is about 75. And we know we need to kind of increase that a little bit more. And I think that's kind of a big thing, isn't it? Right. In terms of that, if you're looking at a market with a product with that average order value, I guess, it's probably could be worth a test, but you probably don't need to, because you're seeing you have so much more flexibility now, just being online, making a lot of sales. You don't really feel like that's going to give you much more of an advantage. I mean, maybe unless you were looking at possibly getting wholesalers and starting to get into some stores, and then you wanted to kind of get out there and look at that. Or maybe if you had a product line that you couldn't sell online anymore, you had maybe a few hundred units left of inventory, finding it hard to sell, and then maybe getting into the market to see if you can just kind of push it out at cost price. That could possibly be an idea.
That was a video from my regular Monday night Q&A session with the members of the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs. We are a community of 2,500 members and growing. We're the fastest growing community of professional e-commerce sellers right here in Australia, with sales, by the way, of over $50 million. $50 million, holy crap. If you'd like to find out more about what we do and how we can help you build your own e-commerce business too, get off to www.aussieonlineentrepreneurs.com.au. The link for that is in the description. And thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.